Welcome to Young American Males Living in Berkeley. I have two guests with me tonight who are both homeless, and they are here tonight to share some of their experiences, their strength and hope with us today. Why don't we start off by you telling us your name, your age, and where you were born?
My name's Luke. I'm 21. I was born in the Bay Area. It's kind of like shuffled around here a lot.
Okay.
I've been in Berkeley the last 3 years.
Okay.
My name is Michi. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been traveling around the country for the past like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up in Berkeley, and I like Berkeley. It's cool.
All right. So what was your childhood like? What was it like growing up here? Where did you say you were born?
I was born in Sacramento, but I've been raised in the Bay Area like my whole life. It wasn't very exciting. Like my childhood wasn't like special or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty boring, honestly, like compared to like everything after I was homeless.
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that you had a normal childhood, or
No, I don't think anyone has a normal childhood.
Your parents were just regular middle class?
No, I grew up with my mom. I never really knew my dad too much until kind of recently. But I mean, it's like nobody has a normal childhood, but it was as unnormal as anyone else's, no more, no less, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Michi?
My childhood was kind of not normal. Well, it's normal anyway. But I was in like homeschooled.
Well, wait, before we even go there, where were you born again?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow, that's different.
Yeah, I was homeschooled, and I didn't really go to public school until I hit high school. So that was like a really intense experience for me, for being in a like one-on-one environment, like learning that way, and then like moving into an environment where like there were like 30 to 40 other students that were trying to get the same knowledge or doing whatever they were doing in school at that time.
Mm-hmm. So what were the differences? I mean, what?
The biggest difference is I could do anything I wanted. I could eat and play video games and be on the laptop and check Facebook and stuff while I was in class and doing homework. I couldn't do that in school.
Wait, I'm a little confused. So you were in private school?
No, I was homeschooled.
Oh, you were homeschooled. Okay, that's right. Why were you homeschooled?
I guess because my mom wanted to like, I don't know, she was a big believer in education was too institutionalized and stuff like that. And I guess she forced that upon her kids and just had us homeschooled. I mean, but we did learn stuff. I mean,
like when you say we, who were we?
Me and my sisters.
How many sisters do you have?
Too many, like 8.
Wow, I hear that. How about you? What was your school experience like when you were growing up?
Pretty crappy. I just kind of like went at anywhere from like an hour to 2 to 3 hours after school began, and then usually left like anywhere from 2 to 3 hours before it actually ended every day, and then just kind of did nothing in between that.
So what age, what grade are you talking about right now? Like
every single, like from the moment that they started giving you like A through F grades in school, I was getting like solid Fs. Pretty much. Like once they started doing homework, dude, that's when it was like, shit, I'm out of it. Like I can't handle all this.
We're talking 2nd, 3rd grade here, though.
Well, no, because I mean, because up to like, I think it was about 5th grade. Because like up till 5th grade, it's like you don't even get grades. You can't get an F when you're in 2nd grade, you know. But like once it started actually mattering, like I started just kind of like not doing anything, and it's like when you start not doing anything and they start trying to motivate you, that always just kind of got me to like retract kind of like further and just like. You know, so I didn't really, like I would attend school every once in a while, but I wasn't like going to school at all. You know, I wasn't actually doing anything remotely productive.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think school wasn't for you? Like,
I don't know, I think it was just like, I have no idea. Like at the time, like I had a lot of different kind of like opinions and theories that I don't necessarily like hold now. I think at the root of it was just like that element just doesn't mix with me, you know, like some people just like really hate being in cars, and some people just like really hate being in cold weather and like this and that. And like I think I just really hated something about that entire atmosphere.
I can relate to that. Totally. How about you, Mitch?
Yeah, I can relate to that. Like being in that atmosphere, because I was so used to like everyone that was learning with me, like knowing them on a like interpersonal level before, like already, and like jumping from that to actually jumping into public schools, like I didn't know nobody, and I was just around a bunch of niggas that I didn't know that were crazy and stuff, and they hella picked on me because like you're the smart one that didn't go. You're the smart kid that like that got homeschooled and never touched a public school, but you're the smart kid.
Right. So let me jump to the next. What actually is a part of what you're talking about is what. When did you decide did you graduate school? Did you?
No,
I took the. I actually forget the exact name of it, but it's essentially the GED thing, except it's phrased differently. And the way everything works out, we felt like a job application or whatever. Instead of checking that you have your GED, you're actually supposed to check that you have your diploma, because it's like equivalent to a California diploma and all this and all that. And it's like you pay $50, you go to Hayward, take a 40-minute test that goes up to like, I mean, like I remember the types of question on it from like 8th grade assignments. Like it wasn't even remotely as hard as the GED. And if you fail it, you get to pay another $50 when you try it. And I took it and just kind of blew through it and got it like, I aced it. So it just kind of gave me this little chip.
So okay. How about you, Michi? You said no.
Mm-mm.
You were eager to say no.
I just dropped out, and I mean, I didn't get my GED or anything, but I did further my education.
How old were you when you dropped out? How old were you?
16.
Okay.
Like, and I was already like at the time I was in a program where I can audit college classes. So that's all I did. I just dropped out of high school and started auditing college classes.
You feel like you were more advanced than the average high school kid?
Yeah, because I would just sit at the college all day and not go to school.
Okay.
And they had computer labs and stuff. Why not?
So you're 27 now, and you're 21. How old were you guys when you became homeless?
21?
What drove you to just to decide not to live in a house, decide to just turn to the streets to survive and not be a part of society? Or be a part of society? I don't know. Can you fill me in on what made that happen? Or when you decided to do it?
It was more like a series of unfortunate events. And my hometown is like a very big city, and a very, very dangerous one as well. So I was just like I might as well just like travel. I'm not like, might as well just not sit here and just rot in this town, you know what I mean? And so I just started traveling and like seeing other places and then becoming more cultured and stuff like that, so that
Like how did you start traveling? Did you just get a
Hitchhiking.
job and save some money, or?
Hitchhiking. I started out hitchhiking, and then like throughout my travels, just ran into people that like had like random odd jobs for me, and then traveled that way. I've been to like a couple of overseas countries, but
So you said you've been to a few overseas?
I've been to like Egypt and India, and I've been to China once. Didn't like China. It was
And
hard
were you
to
homeless?
communicate
Oh,
with people.
Were you homeless in those countries as well, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, it's weird because when you're in a country where, like, if you're in a country where there's, like, it is damn near impossible that you will meet a black person, like, people are very hospitable and very, like,
Yeah, like you're the attraction or something.
yeah, like, they're very, very hospitable, like, no matter, like, what country you go to, like, especially, like, countries like Germany and stuff, because, like, those countries are, like, mostly, like Caucasian and Mongoloid races, so they're just, like, they're just like, oh, there's a black person. They just want to talk to you because you're different than everything, like something that you see every day.
Yeah.
Wow. How about you? When did you become homeless? You're 21 now, so.
Yeah. I had like a week when I was 16 where I ran away from home, and I remembered like a bunch of my friends and a lot of people talked about how awesome Berkeley was and Berkeley this and Berkeley that. And I remembered from every time I'd been here, which had been like twice at that point in my life, and it hadn't even really been a lot. But I remember there was always like street kids around, so I was like, all right, well, fuck it, I guess I'm gonna go to Berkeley and I'm gonna try that. Like, you know, that's my idea. And like I said, I wound up lasting like a week, and like it was cool. Like I liked it, and I had good experiences, and it was like memorable, and it was like going from 16 years of like absolutely unbearingly like dull, uneventful, kind of like just boring, unsatisfying life to just like a week of crazy ass shit happening. You know, just like crazy stuff that like I couldn't even imagine in my head being an everyday aspect of life. And so then when I was 18, I wound up getting in a fight with my mom, and I ran away again or whatever. You know, I was cut out, and I was like, well, I'm going back to Berkeley.
Wait, what do you mean cut out?
I was just, you know, I made the decision that I was no longer gonna live there. I think I got kicked out. I'm not quite sure exactly how it happened. I was really high when it happened. But, I was like, you know, just because I had that week in Berkeley before and I was 16, and I was like, all right, well, cool, I'm gonna do that again. And that was like 3 years ago, so I was 18 then. So I've been pretty much homeless ever since like, I believe it was a couple months after my 18th birthday.
Do you still find it to be?
It's very exhilarating and eventful, but I'm starting to grow a lot more weary and kind of bored of the specific location. I've been kind of like branching out and traveling around more, not too far, but just kind of like getting my hooks in that. I really want to like kind of go like Michi does, if I can just like really travel one day. I've never even left like California. I've been to Oregon once. That's like it.
So, what do you think some of the other reasons for young people to become homeless? What do you think some of
Like in general?
Just in general, like from your stories that you've encountered out there on the streets over the past 3 years, or you, Michi, over the past 7 years. Like, what are some of the reasons you've come up with that you can come up with for why people are homeless at such a young age, like 14, 12, sometimes?
Well,
16?
some people feel like even though they may have family, they don't have anyone they can really turn to. So if the event happens that they do get kicked out, like the only option they have is to go to a family member or a friend, like to see if they can help them. But if they don't have that kind of resource or reference, it's harder. And a lot of people can't really judge and say a lot of people, but like some people may like get into a depression from that experience happening to them, and they might become reclusive and end up putting themselves in that situation and stamping themselves and becoming comfortable with that because like they're so used to being dull and like living like no life and not having like enthusiasm in their spirit to actually do something. And because it's usually hard for someone to actually have that confidence in themselves unless someone actually comes up to them and invests that in them, because people they have egos, and the ego can pull up a person down as well as build a person up.
What do you think?
I think everyone has like their own individual reason, you know. So there's always there's almost always a story behind it and shit. But like, aside from like the ultra homeless, like the kind of people where it's like, yeah, I'm homeless because there's literally no possible way that I couldn't be homeless right now. And like honestly, that's a lot rarer than you'd expect. Like at some point, most homeless people are homeless by some sort of choice. And I don't mean that like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be homeless, get a check, but by some sort of choice, I mean there's some there's something they could do that would house them up, but they're making the choice to stop and conscientiously think about it and go, no, because even though that would solve what appears to be a problem, would do it in a way that wouldn't be as fitting. You know what I mean? Like sometimes being homeless is a better alternative than what it would take to be not homeless at that minute.
But
I think like a large part of it, honestly, is kind of like breaks down to the point where like I mean, everything, and not just about this, just like everything kind of like has some element of pop culture to it. Like everything kind of involves like your generation's perspective on anything. And I think our generation is kind of dawning on the point where like you're seeing a lot more young people and people our age becoming homeless. And not only that, but you're seeing like as a percent of the homeless population, way more are youths than you've ever seen before. You know what I mean? Like you go out and you see people like panhandling on the street, and it's like 80%, people who are under 30. And I think a large part of that is that our generation is just kind of like reaching this weird like facet sort of where we're kind of dawning on like the new hippie generation or the new beatnik generation or whatever. And just like you had like the Summer of Love when all the, youths were like, all right, cool, we'll be homeless on fucking Haight Street or on Ash, It's like we're kind of dawning on this point where it's kind of like infecting the culture in a way where like street kids are like an affable part of this culture. I mean, like people, like high school kids can go out and kick it with homeless kids who are young, and that kind of makes them want to do it, and these people want to do it, and I think it's kind of like a cultural phenomenon at this point.
So you mentioned the new generation of hippies, and I know back in the 60s it had a lot to do with the war and Vietnam and the decisions that the presidents and politicians were making. How does that fit into what you're talking about? I mean, can you guys, does that affect why you are where you are right now in response to what's going on with the world? At
the beginning of my travels, like that's why I was out. Like my perception of getting a job was that I would be making money to support them to go overseas and kill other people. Like, so I was just like, I don't want to work towards that. So like, I was just like, I'd rather go travel and actually like go to these places where where the government is fighting and actually like see these people for who they are and how they are, and actually make a meditative judgment instead of just jumping to a conclusion just based on what the media or whatever is showing us, because the media is corrupt as well, and people just like don't see that because they're programmed to be blind.
Whatever. So, do you think that has anything to do with why you guys are? Because I noticed myself that there's, that's why I'm doing this, because I walk down Shattuck, and I see every week a new face. I go up to the park up on Telegraph. There's always a new kid, and I'm saying to them, hey, you know me? You don't know me yet, but you will, because I'm always working with you guys, and I used to be homeless myself, so I know what it's like to be out there. Yeah. And I'd like to know, what's going on. That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so if you had, in your opinion, like, what are some of the other alternatives? I mean, do you think that you mentioned the kids not having a choice, or they're choosing to be out on the street? What do you think some of the alternatives are, or could have been?
Well, I mean, eventually, it's kind of like, it's weird too, because our system, like, not just like our governmental system or our social system, just like everything, just like the world system or the California system or whatever, has this really like polarized, weird way of kind of breaking it down. Like, all right, if you're homeless, if you're coming from like absolutely nothing, like you're sitting on the street, dirty, crashing with some friends under a bridge somewhere, huffing glue every night or whatever, like it's really hard to go out there and clean yourself up and pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get a job and bust in the system and really like make a difference. It's because of the system we have is kind of like weirdly polarized away from like gradual, solid change and personal betterment or whatever. to either you can be homeless and panhandle and whatever, you know, like the homeless route, or do this and stand in this line and fill out this paperwork, and we'll give you an SSI check, and we'll give you a GA check, and we'll give you this. And it's sort of like, instead of being polarized from being homeless and not working to working and supporting yourself, it's polarized from trying to divide everyone into, you know, okay, well, you know, the system wants you to say, well, you're homeless and you don't have anything going for you, you're broke, so here, let me support you, and once you're on the GA, then you can do better, then you can get a job, or then what, but it doesn't happen. Like, realistically, look at it happen, and we kind of get found in a system where either you can be homeless or you can be on the, you know, welfare life support thing, and when you get to that point, everything's geared to keep you there. You know, I mean, you don't go up, you don't go down, you just stay in your Section 8 housing and pay for your food with your food stamps, and, you know, buy your chick something to eat with what little GA you have left over. And it's like,
So you're saying that's something that that most people are choosing not to do?
no, I mean, a lot of people do. But it's kind of like 50-50, where it's like, all right, you could do that, and it's like, you know, all right, cool. Then I'd have a house, right? I'd be warm every day, and I'd have something soft to sleep on, and, you know, whatever. I won't get rained on and everything. But it's like, at the same time, then I've just like gotten into a fucking hole. You know what I mean? It's like, it at a less primal level, or at a more like you know, more from the vantage point of just personal satisfaction with your everyday living experience. I don't really think being in government housing, living off government money, doing all that stuff, and just kind of like sledging through every day is any necessary. You know, I don't think it's better. You know, I think it's about equal. Honestly, I think I'd be kind of indifferent to being filed through the system and just being kind of stranded from it.
Yeah, because I've known you guys for coming up on a year now. I think March or April will make a year. And in that time, I've seen a lot of people go back home. Not a lot, but I've seen a few kids who've gone back home.
Yeah.
I've seen a few kids disappear, and a few that are still here are trying to get into school now. They're trying to get back into school. They're trying to turn their lives around. And how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about yourself in that type of situation?
I feel awesome about it. Because if I sign up for school, the government will give me money, and a lot of it.
No, but I mean, as far as your aspirations, you were talking about that before. So I'm just asking, like, you know, what do you think motivates or remotivates or makes a young person your age decide, okay, I don't want to be homeless anymore. It's time to cut this shit out.
All right, something has to happen. I believe, well, for me, what happened was something has to happen in your life that, like, challenges your thinking of what you already, like, the way you already think. Because if that doesn't happen, you can't really go anywhere. Because if you don't change, you're just going to be stuck in the same place for the rest of your life.
Yeah, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So elaborate a bit.
Like me, I can have the mindset that, like, I don't want to go to school or work or do anything that society wants me to do because they're just trying to make me institutionalized, so I become a robot, so that I can't think or do anything for myself. Like, my life's so routine that, like, I become programmed, and then I just eventually die and not live any kind of life. But at the same time, a way to become successful is having balance in your life, knowing that, like, you can actually do these things, but you can actually like pull yourself out of it, so you don't become programmed in that, like, so that you can actually keep your soul while you're still, like, working or whatever, instead of becoming institutionalized.
So you're saying that the ones who are choosing to turn their lives around, something happened to make them want to do it.
Yeah, something happened, or they saw a vision or something, like, something had to, like, happen to click in their brain.
Give me an example.
Like, all right, I recently been in jail. I make hip hop instrumentals. Like, the first day I got to jail, I met Drew Down, the guy who was responsible for the "I Got 5" on the song. that's really popular.
I got 5 on it.
Like I
We
met
all know
him the
that
first
song.
day I was in jail, and then I met like one of his best friends, and he raps too. And like right before I got out, he gave me his email. And was like, well, if like I need singers and I need beat makers. So when I get out of here, like if you want to make some money, like email me or shoot me an email. That's something that clicked in my brain because I wouldn't even be thinking of that. I'll just like because I think of making beats as a hobby, and not ever thinking of it as a career.
Or
Like
it means to get out of this.
huh?
Or it means to just like get out of this.
Yeah, or it means to get out of this because I thought of it as a hobby and not a career.
And when you say get out of this, what do you mean?
Well, I mean being homeless, like not
Yeah.
this immediately in our city,
No, I know,
but
I
like
know,
just
I
kind
know.
of this in
No,
terms
no,
of
no,
like
of
what we go
course.
through every day. You
Well,
know?
you're here for a purpose too. You're trying to spread the word around too. Being here is helping someone else who might be following in your footsteps and can get a clear view on what they're feeling and not even have to go as far because you're helping provide some information.
Yeah.
But so yeah, what's your take on it?
I think there's also a really big trap that a lot of like the people in our situation fall into, where it's like they firmly decided that this is total bullshit. Like they totally are against everything. You know, like they don't want to be here. They don't want to be on the street. They don't want to be homeless. They've been there, done that. They made a decision that they want to move on, but they have no idea what they want to do. You know, like they don't want to be homeless, but there's no, what I do want to do is, you know, it just like draws a blank. And like, I'd say I kind of find myself in that category, but it's just like this really huge, like you can just tell there's, you know, I wouldn't say a majority, but I'd say a large percentage of the people who've been on the streets where it's just like, you know, it's extremely evident, if not, you know, directly spoken, that they aren't happy with the situation. They want something to change. You know, they want there to be something different. They don't want, you know, what they have at their shelter and at their Spain spot and at whatever, but they have no idea for the life of them what they might possibly replace it with, because it's like, all right, well, I could go back to my old job at McDonald's and go get a job and, you know, rent an apartment on MLK and Adeline for really cheap, except I hate that idea too. Or I can go live with my parents back in Baltimore and, you know, go be a lawyer like my daddy wanted me to do, except they hate that idea too, you know? And it's just like every alternative to the situation they hate is equally crappy, you know? So sometimes I don't think it's like, oh, it's gotta be something that changes, like an event that changes how you look at everything. I think sometimes it's just sort of like, but you need to have an alternative. You need to have like your replacement plan. You just can't say, all right, well, I'm done being homeless. I'm gonna get the first job I get and get the first apartment I get, because usually the people who go at it like that wind up back on the streets, you know? You have to kind of like progress from I don't want to be homeless to I do want to be this.
And Michi mentioned before, one of the things that stood out for me was he said, you have to change your thinking or the way you think about things. Maybe not in those exact words, but that was a big part of what he said before. So do you think that the lawmakers and political figures that are in charge of what's going on in our communities have anything to do with it, or?
Not in a positive way.
Okay.
I think they're definitely responsible for a large part of why we're all homeless. I think they're definitely.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I definitely think our local policymakers and especially policy enforcers play a very huge part in there being such a large number of homeless youth going around everywhere.
Okay, Michi, because
I was gonna add something to that because, like, I don't know if you ever read this book called "Behold the Pale Horse," but it talks about how economics is the study of social energy, and how society actually has to put you, in order for society to prosper in any way, society has to put everyone in a caste system. So that there's levels that you have to, that there's levels that are in front of you when there may not be levels in front of you. Like they're just like putting that veil over your eyes or whatever, so that you're thinking that you have to climb this ladder, and then every time you step on the rung, it breaks under your foot and you fall back down. When you're actually not even moving at all, you're just like running in place.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd definitely look at it more like a treadmill than a ladder. Like
Yeah,
every once in a while, you can get like that really good burst of energy and like bolt to the front of the escalator and hop off. But anytime you get back on it, like anywhere you're in a state of traction, it's either running in place or you're getting out of breath and just sliding.
Now, there's a couple of places around the city that I've heard of that are in place to help young people with shelter and things like that. And I know one place here in Berkeley is called Yay, I think.
No, yeah, the Youth
Yeah.
Engagement Advocacy Housing,
Youth
whatever they
Engage-
changed the name to this
Right.
year.
So I tried to go over to them and ask them for some information and possibly interview them about what they're doing for the young people that are out on the streets. And I never got a call back on 3 different attempts. And I'm just wondering, can you guys fill me in on some of that stuff? What's going on with the EA program? Have you
it's
been
actually-
a part of it? Or?
I can't really, I don't know too much about this year. They changed, they began to change it last year. This year was entirely different. Whereas like I started staying there immediately after I got to Berkeley. Like that was I'd actually tried to stay there when I was 16 and got denied because I told them I was 16. You have to be 18 to 26. And for 2 years I stayed there, and there's a 3rd year, and I'm staying there this year. And it used to be just a general all-purpose shelter, dinner, service, anything for the homeless youth of Berkeley. This year it's been kind of filed down, so they don't really do anything for us, the general homeless population. But they have, I believe it's 20 kids, and it's very specifically, there's 20 kids on the roster. Those kids get help. Everyone else gets kind of told to go be hungry and whatever. So, but if you're in the program, it's at the most basic like thing that everyone there takes advantage of is the bed space, the mat space to sleep in, the food, and the shower. You know, the shower, the basic stuff like that. But if you ask for it, if you ask them to help you or whatever, if you really get in the program, like they help you get housing, they help you with any individual needs you might brought up, they help you get IDs, they help you just kind of like, it's a pretty thorough service if you're one of the people that they service.
Have you worked with them, Michi, at all?
Oh, I'm too old for them.
What about when you were younger? When you were you said you started when you were 21, right?
Yeah, there were like some homeless shelters that like I've been to like throughout the country that were like really helpful.
For young people or just in general homeless?
Just in general, like I've been to a lot of cities, and like it's like when it comes to youth, it's usually only places that have cities with very big populations that have programs for youth homeless. And usually if it's like a smaller town, most of the services are geared towards veterans and like just generalized like older homeless people.
Yeah, there's definitely a hierarchy of
Yeah,
homeless people.
because like
sometimes.
where I'm from, if you're a youth, they're definitely like no matter if you're over the age of 18, if you're between the age of 18 and 21, they're gonna try to get you back to your family. Like even if you may be a legal adult, they're gonna still try to get you back to your family because they don't want you to, be in the streets. Because like being in a big city, being in the streets is dangerous for a young person, especially if you live in a big city that has like a really high crime rate.
Wow. So I just I find this all so amazing because when I was younger, it was completely different. But so where do you guys go from here? I mean, what do you think your plans are as individuals? Just curious. You don't have to throw that now. You kind of basically said how you felt before, but
I think I'm like years of meditation and like hundreds of blunts away from ever being able to answer that question.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep meditating until I get to the point where I can just astral project So like life doesn't even mean shit to me anymore.
Just ask for reality for 35 minutes good and try to work with it.
Just grab onto that one.
I know that there's a big thing about drugs, and a lot of other shows, they focus on just, you know, the drug abuse or the meth head or the crack head or the, you know, whatever drug some young person might be on and how terrible it is. But from my experience, I've noticed that most of the guys that I met here just smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
I haven't really met anyone who's really strung out on meth. There's a few of them.
Really?
There's a few of them. But I would say if I had to count, if I had to give it a percentage from my experiences with you guys, I don't know. What do you think?
I just say you'd be surprised, bro.
Well, this is why we're here, because I'd like to break through that little cloud of smoke that I'm looking through.
Sorry, even when we're kind of like in the belly of the beast, like even when you're out there every day, like you'll always still be surprised. Like especially out Berkeley, like I don't know if like you've heard about this or whatever, but like especially in this town particularly, because like I found that different towns have their different little pet social problems or whatever. Like in Berkeley is definitely like meth. Like there's a lot of people out here who tweak and stuff, and it's like you don't, like you said, you don't see a lot of people who like, you don't see a lot of like strung out like OG hardcore tweak addict, like, you know, people like run around all night. But like what I've noticed is that like amongst the high school kids and the younger homeless people and the college kids, like especially the college kids, people don't look at that a lot, but like Cal Berkeley is a freaking like party campus, like, you know, and it's like you see a lot of people who kind of get drawn into that whole like nasty little like kind of vortex of just like, oh well, my friend does it and that guy does it and that guy does it, and the person at my squat who I'm staying with is doing it, so sure, I'll try it. And it's just like, so you don't get a lot of people who are addicted, or a lot of people get strung out, but you just get like so many people, and especially so many like younger people who don't know any better and who don't have like the life experience to like stay sheltered from that, who get kind of like sucked in for whatever their period of time is, but some period of time, you know. And even like if somebody doesn't have some sort of issue related to them using drugs, there's, you know what I mean, like everyone either has a backpack that got stolen from some heroin act, or a spot that got blown up and now the cops are, you know, going through it every night because some crackhead broke into a window, or this or that, you know. And like a whole totally different aspect of that people don't really understand a lot is that when it comes down to street kids and homeless people, especially in like the East Bay of California, especially in Berkeley, especially like, you know, here as well as anywhere, like when it comes to homeless people, like drugs are, they're not just a social and a medical concern, it's also a huge like financial concern. You know, just like when you go to Colombia and you see like migrant workers who are raising like cocaine plants for like 75 cents an hour because it's the only job available. Like when you're homeless, there's like this huge incentive to do drugs or sell drugs or this or that or have something to do with drugs at some point in some way, just because of the fact that it's one of the few avenues that is open to a homeless person to make money. It's one of the few ways that a homeless person can kind of make money quick without getting too invested in something. Because I mean, normally you would panhandle, but you can't really panhandle in Berkeley. Like it doesn't work out like it does elsewhere. So like drugs have kind of like replaced panhandling in Berkeley as the main avenue of making money. And on top of that, there's the fact that it's like, it's I don't know, it's Berkeley. You know what I mean? Like people here smoke a lot of pot, mostly pot. But you know, people here need drugs. You know, it's kind of like a party town. And like whenever you have like a town like, you know, Santa Cruz or Berkeley or like any of those like kind of swinging like party towns, you always have like a huge demand for it.
Chico, Humboldt.
Yeah. Exactly.
What's your take on it?
I think that everyone in Berkeley is part of the DARE program, and that means that drugs are really excellent. Because like I think it's sad because it's California, and California is known for having like drugs. Very good drugs.
Yeah, but the question that I was asking is, you know, how does that relate to being homeless?
Well, I mean, the majority, like in
Like, is
around
it
here,
because of that?
the
Is it-
majority, I mean, like, I mean, especially with pot, it kind of branches out into other drugs as well to varying degrees. But the majority of people get their drugs, and like I said, especially pot, from homeless people. Like in Berkeley, like 90% of the homeless people are, they're not 90%, I'm sorry, not 90% of the homeless people are selling pot. 90% of the people selling pot are homeless people, because it's just like, I don't know, there's just like this attitude of, you know, some guy wants to sell pot to his dorm mates at UC Berkeley, right? He might get, you know, something for $180 or $200 that some homeless person would get for like $80. You know what I mean? Like when you're homeless here, it's kind of like the other people who are homeless and who are already selling drugs and who are already like kind of controlling the system, or kind of who have built the system, kind of try to branch it out to new, you know, get their new recruits or whatever, get their new like generation of, you know, fellow criminals. And they do that by, I mean, if you're homeless, you will get whatever you're getting for less than half priced what anyone else would get, you know? And it's like, it's kind of like that incentive, but it's also like, it's weird because it's kind of like, it kind of comes up on an issue of pride where it's like, that's the only thing that the street kids in this town and the street kids in Oakland, the street kids in the city can be like, all right, well, that's us. That's what we're, you know, that's our industry, and that's what our reputation is going to be found on, you know? And so it's kind of like that weird incentive, like.
What were you going to say before me?
Yeah, I was going to say that too. It's like someone who's successful will pay a lot more for drugs than like I would pay for drugs. Like, and I'd be like, I mean, like, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. But like,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that like so many homeless people are into drugs are into drugs is it's like hey, it's like we don't want alcoholics in the ghetto, but in the ghetto there's like a liquor store in every corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that, like the chicken or the egg, which came first, the homelessness or the drug?
I think they both caused each other.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michi?
Yeah, I would say that they both cause each
Yeah.
other.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Like how do you explain it in a way, like a big bang. Like if you were to get 100,000 people to be in one small space, like eventually, like that small space would like explode, like in a million different directions, and like and carry with it like what each individual had with it. So like this person could have had this skill, and this person could have had this skill, or this person could have had, well, this said drug, and this person could have had said drug, or whatever, and all these drugs could have been different. But when they come together, like most of and they disperse from each other, they all have what each other has, instead of like, you know what I'm saying? Instead of having their own thing.
So in other words,
It's like,
if I'm new to the streets and I was never on drugs, chances are I'll probably start doing drugs.
yeah, because it'd be presented to you so much. It'd be like,
I don't know about drugs, but
but
That's what I'm trying to.
pot, definitely.
Because even when we mentioned, like I mentioned drugs, I don't necessarily use marijuana and weed or whatever you want to call it, cannabis.
Drugs.
I don't use that in the same category as I would say meth or crack or cocaine or heroin.
Yep.
Any of those
drugs.
hardcore, or even alcohol.
Yeah.
Now alcohol's a whole other thing.
That's like another really unfortunate fact when you look at like
Like I've seen a lot of young
yeah.
teenagers that are not able to come on the show because they're too young to sign their own release forms. And that just bothers me. But they're alcoholics.
Yeah, drugs. Like when you look at like drugs and homelessness, like alcohol is like hands down the most likely out of all the serious drugs, out of all the drugs that you have a significant chance of being addicted to life, or that you have a significant chance of dying because of, like out of all the hard drugs that have direct and severe mental and physical damage to you for using them, like hands down, alcohol is the most likely to kind of get inflicted upon young people. Like you see so many people who are out here who are homeless, like let's say they're 19 years old and they've been drinking since they were like 13, versus people who are out here who are 19 who've been like shooting up heroin since they were 13. Like alcohol is hands down the most, like, you know, like.
So they look worse than the people who use heroin. They're in worse condition than the heroin users.
I wouldn't necessarily say worse condition. I'd just say that they're more likely to be in the condition that they are in because alcohol, like I said, especially amongst young kids, especially like in like people our age, like young adults, alcohol is the most likely culprit when you're talking about like serious drug abuse, like because it kind of like it sneaks under your radar because like you grow up hearing, you know, we'll never shoot up heroin or else you'll wind up overdosing, and never do crack or else you'll wind up being a thief, and never do meth or else you'll wind up with scabs all over your face. But then you go and you watch TV and you see like the most interesting man in the world telling you to drink Dos Equis, you know? So it's like, it's we still always grow up with that kind of, that culture that's geared away from drinking that says don't drink, but there's no stigma to drinking. And whereas there's a stigma to any other drug, but like pot and maybe like some of the hallucinogenics, you know?
Like, I like.
We can wrap it up soon, though. But go ahead.
One of the things that really interests me is that, like back when I was in school, like I guess the Food and Drug Administration or whoever, like classified as weed as being a gateway drug. When I believe, well, based on experience, that alcohol is actually a gateway drug.
Alcohol
because like people will do all kinds of drugs when they're drunk and not even remember doing those drugs.
Wow.
Like,
well, I really appreciate you guys coming, and I'm sorry to have to cut you off like that at such an abrupt time, but that's about all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you can come back because this is just the beginning of, I think, something that's important.